Hello and thank you for joining me today on the Political Conversationalist. My name is Ben Phipps and we're concluding our mini-series of videos on voting. If you haven't learned by now, then I think voting is very, very important. In fact, anyone can and everyone should vote. And we talked about voter ID and how that prevents fraud in elections and how easy it is to commit fraud and get away with it in many elections without voter ID laws. And we talked about felons' right to vote and how you shouldn't give them the life sentence of disenfranchisement if they've completed the sentence that the judge has handed down to them. But once all the ballots are cast, they still have to be counted, and there's a lot of room for corruption and tampering in there. Nicaraguan dictator Anastasio Somoza famously said, "Indeed you won the elections, but I won the count." Now he was talking about 1970s Nicaragua. Are elections rigged in the US like they were then? Probably not. But they could become that way if we aren't proactive with legislation, federal legislation, now. There are many different ways in which states count votes because it is by and large left up to the states and sometimes individual counties and cities. There are entire states, Colorado, Oregon, and Washington, that mail in every ballot. In Colorado, for example, a ballot is mailed to every registered voter. It is then filled out and return mailed with stamps paid for by the voter. Anyone can see this is unfair and easy to tamper with. Anyone could open my mail, fill out the ballot, and return it in my name. And what if I don't have enough money for stamps? I know stamps aren't very expensive, but there are some people that live in such impoverished conditions, and that's not really fair for them to disenfranchise them because they can't pay for stamps. In some rural areas, paper ballots are still counted by hand. That's kind of ridiculous to me. This is the information age. This is 2018 as of this recording. And you have people who are by and large retired people that like to get out of the house at these elections, because I have worked at an election before. Have all these people, what's to say that they don't have a political agenda to push for? What's to say that they don't have a favorite candidate or a candidate that they just really dislike? It's obviously not a good idea to let people hand count these ballots unless there's no other way. But even though these methods, by mail and hand counting, are ridiculous, there's another way that's less easily but still able to be tampered with: electronic voting machines. Now firstly, let me mention that they're imperfect, but firstly they are manufactured and programmed by private companies who, just like the people counting paper ballots, may have their own political agendas. Secondly, most of them leave no paper trail for a recount, so if a race was exceptionally close, you just have to believe what the machines said. And thirdly, some of them are vulnerable to cyber attacks. Herbert H. Thompson, PhD, wrote a code in 2005 to allow him to change the totals for any candidate and leave no record. Now, you can check the description for that source. In 2000 and 2004, electronic voting machines, mostly in Texas, automatically checked Bush-Cheney for straight-party Democrat ballots. And if you're watching this channel, you probably know George Bush and Dick Cheney were not Democrats. So is there even a better or more fair way to count ballots? Yes, there is, and thankfully it's what we use right here in Cleveland County, North Carolina. They're called optical scanners. And in many ways, these are the best of both worlds. It works a lot like a standardized test like you would take in school, like your EOGs. You're given a paper ballot and a pen. You then fill in the bubbles of the candidate you'd like to vote for. Then the optical scanner scans your ballot and counts your vote. Most optical scanners can only be tampered with by physical contact, so they can't be hacked in the same ways as electronic voting machines. Even better, the ballots are saved should there need to be a recount. Optical scanners are the most secure method of vote counting. Thankfully, they're used more than half of the time. But federal law should make it the only way to count ballots. This will protect democracy and voters for years to come. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon.